Okay. Okay, we're live, so we'll get going. Good morning and happy Friday. I'm used to saying happy Monday, but this is better, right? Fridays are a lot more exciting than Mondays, I think. So happy Friday. It's almost the weekend, and thank you all for joining us this morning because we have a really exciting and special chamber chat today to talk about a real challenge. I was going to say issue, but let's call it a challenge. And that's that struggle for balance between work and life and whatever else you have going on. So I tend to think about that as family, but that could be a plethora of things, I'm sure. So first, I want to say thank you to Positive Radio Network, Y100.5, for streaming our chamber chats and helping us get the word out on these important issues. Thanks to Tim Walker for being such a great partner with us, with the chamber. And then I want to introduce our special guest today. Before I do that, we originally had Samantha Purdy, who was going to join us as well. And she's such a great example also of somebody really doing a great job at maintaining that work-life balance. But ironically, Samantha is on a school field trip with her oldest daughter. So I thought that was kind of fun to share because, of course, that is literally the topic that we are discussing today. But we also have Dr. Kerri Bates, and I'm sure most of you know Kerri, or Dr. Bates, sorry, because she's active in the community and she's really served the community of Graham and other communities as well for quite a while. I won't say like a long time because that makes it sound like I'm calling you old, and I'm not. But she's a psychologist here and has her doctorate and master's degree in psychology, but also has 2 boys and a husband, and is involved in church and other organizations and does a lot for the community as well. So that's some of what we're going to be talking about. And then, of course, we also have Sarah Lundgren. And I know most of you know Sarah because she's involved in more things than I ever thought was possible. She helps with almost, I think, really and truly, it seems like almost everything that goes on in this community to make this community the great place that it is to live. So Sarah is actually pursuing her doctorate right now, her PhD from Texas Tech in educational leadership. Because I get it wrong every single time, and you've told me no less.
Yeah, it's confusing. So yeah, this one is it's like higher educational leadership, emphasis in student engagement.
That is so awesome. And you have really smart friends when you can't actually even remember what their degrees are in, and you have to ask them every time before you mention it to someone. So anyway, I'm really excited and a little bit humbled to be even on the same chamber chat with these two because they are such smart women, strong professionals, but also just awesome moms and wives and community members. So thank you both for being with us today. Thanks for joining us. And as we go, I want to also let people know who are watching, feel free to comment in the comment section or ask questions, and we'll try to get to as many of those as we can. Keep the comments relevant, please. But either way, we want your engagement and your feedback and your questions, and we'll try to answer all of the questions we can get to. So I'm going to start by asking you, Kerri, what does it mean when somebody says work-life balance, or what does that mean to you? What's that definition?
Well, I think it, like you alluded to, it can mean different things for different people. Sometimes that has to do with, in the example you gave of the 3 of us, balancing work and motherhood. For others, it can be balancing a healthy lifestyle and work. For others, it can be the organizations that they're involved in. Sarah happens to do all of it, but other organizations that they're involved in. And so it really can refer to a lot of different areas. And when you told me about this talk, I went and looked up the definition of balance and just kind of started there. And I thought it was so interesting because so one of the definitions is an even distribution of weight that enables someone to remain upright and steady. And I thought that's pretty cool because the whole reason we're talking about this and why it's important is because it'll help us in so many areas. And I really like that the words upright and steady. Another definition said that you take different elements and put them in the correct proportions. And so, if you think of a pie chart that has all these different roles that you play in your life, what is that balance in those different roles? Is there a piece of your pie graph that is severely out of proportion according to like what you want than what you are hoping it will be? And so how to balance those parts, but to where we stay healthy with that. And so I thought that was a really cool way to start, of just looking at the definition of balance, which even just the plain definition from Webster talks about remaining upright and steady.
I love that. And I feel like, that's what we're all trying to just not topple, right? I mean, we're just trying not to get pulled too far over one way and not fall. I mean, really. So that's awesome. I love that. So is this something that is achievable? And when I say that, like, is this something that's like a cyclical thing? Is it a give and take? Does it change over the course of time on what that balance looks like? Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And one of my favorite things to talk to people that come in, and because part of psychology, and I think this is so important for people to realize, that as a clinical psychologist, yes, we're trained to deal with depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, the actual disorders, but then we're also trained to just help with healthy living. It doesn't have to be someone that has a disorder in a certain area, but if they have areas of their life that they want to improve, I think about, like, how do you live your best life? And a psychologist can even be helpful in that. You don't have to have depression, but if you need someone, an outside perspective, a professional, to help you look at, like, how do I live my best life? I think that's something that comes into play. And particularly when I'm working with those individuals, which I call more growth therapy than like problem-oriented therapy, it's really fun to work with. And so when I work with growth therapy patients or clients, one of the things that we talk about are seasons. And I think that's so important to remember, because when we're in a particular season, it can feel like this is just life and this is how it's always going to be. And sometimes pulling back and recognizing that this is just a season is so helpful. I can remember I was in a women's group through my church when I lived in Oklahoma, and they did what's called laddering, where they had different generations in the same group. And it was so helpful because I was raising my first child, which that was an adjustment, having a baby and trying to figure out how to work. And, I'll never forget being able to listen to these individuals that had children in junior high and high school, or people that had grandchildren and their children were out of the house. And I think one of the most important things is, okay, this is just a season. Like this will pass. And so, Krisa, you're absolutely right. It's cyclical. There are seasons. And one of the things that I think is so important is that, if we're going to make real changes about this, it's a continuous evaluation. And sometimes that's daily. I'm sure both of you can attest to that it's not a one and done. You don't sit down and write this list of how I'm going to balance life and then, hey, the next day you've got it. And that's how it's going to be for the next year. I mean, it is a constant reevaluation, re-looking at your life, realigning things, and being flexible, and knowing that that is going to be cyclical and it's going to change and you're going to need to adapt.
Well, and I think, for me, I'm so thankful to have friends like you and Sarah and my husband who can help me see it. Because sometimes I think I can't see it and I can feel it. I just can't identify what's causing that, that toppling feeling. And, and then I have good friends like Sarah who will say, something. I'm not saying you've ever said this, Sarah, but I think you would if you needed to, but say something like, well,
probably
you've been
have.
at the office a lot, have you been spending enough time with your kids, or is that what's causing some of this, but I think that's important too, to have those people who will, I don't know, I'm not a psychologist, so I'm not trying to say that's important, but for me personally, I feel like that's important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And truthful friends, friends that
Mhm.
they love you enough that they are going to point out those things.
Mhm. Absolutely. Well, Sarah, tell me a little bit. I mean, you really, as far as I'm concerned, you're the master of this. So tell me a little bit about some of the challenges and trying to figure out, where are those priorities, or what do you give up when you take on another responsibility?
This is such a hard question because I think it really is going to show some vulnerability for myself, if I'm being honest. Whenever, what Dr. Bates said about seasons, and that's kind of how I feel like I've always lived my life, is from one season to the next. One season's busy, one season's not, this season's slower, this is a fun season. And, whenever myself and Brant were just married without children, that was a season. And getting involved and investing ourselves into our community was so much more different than the season I'm in now with 2 little children. And it's been really hard for me personally, trying to figure out, when am I my best self in that season, and navigate how I can be a good wife, a good friend, a good mother, a good student, a good employee, a good Christian, and all these things. And it just falls to those seasons. But back to your question of what the biggest challenge is, mommy guilt. I constantly battle, okay, if I say yes to this, it's not taking time away from what I need to do for me, it's taking time away from my family. And these children are only little for so long, and they change so fast. And so I'm constantly battling time management to figure out, okay, if I'm going to commit to this board or to this group, when can I make it work? Will they be able to accommodate that? And when will I be able to still make time for my family? I mean, when we get home in the evenings at 5, granted we have football practice and we're juggling a million things like every other parent in Graham in America. But, it comes down to how I prioritize my time. I know that when I get home, I'm going to put my phone to the side and I'm going to try to be with my family, get dinner cooked, pick up the house, what all moms do. We're not just sitting around hanging out, and still including time to play with the kids, put them down, and then like, okay, now what can I knock off my list? And sometimes I feel I live off of a checklist. And, Dr. Bates and I have talked before about my checklist. Like, they're pretty ridiculous sometimes. And it's really been hard as well because I'm very type A. Everything has a place, everything has a routine. It's just the way it is. And when we were just married without kids, it's easy to do that. But then, you have a baby, and then there's that adjustment. Then you have another child, and that's another adjustment. You're working full time, you're going to school. And it's just figuring out, how am I going to do all these and do them successfully? And the truth is, you can't. You can't.
Which is a big part of it, I think.
I know. I've really had to learn what is an important priority for me and focus on that, then try to just be kind of helpful in a few areas in the community. I've taken a step back from a number of organizations. I've really had to just reevaluate what's important to me as an individual and our family and our community at that time, and how can I be the most helpful in that time and in that season. And it's just recognizing your strengths and weaknesses and knowing when to say no, and that's really hard.
Don't you think that, and I don't have any statistics on this, I'm just basing this off of myself and friends and people that I've talked to in the office. I think in general that's harder for females to do more so than males, is the saying no. And obviously that's a generalization, and it's not always true. But I really do think, Sarah, you hit on such an important part. And, one of the things that I would say, probably anyone working on balancing things, that's one of the biggest hurdles, is learning how to say no.
No, I agree. And I think saying no and not feeling guilty about it, like it just isn't going to work out. Like, that's okay. You can't do everything and do everything great. Brant, he's the best. He always tells me, and is kind of what Krisa mentioned in regards to the reminder. Now, granted, our conversations are a bit more candid than what I'll put on here, but I mean, he always is such the reminder of, like, Sarah, you're not doing great doing it all.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, you're not healthy, you're exhausted, you're struggling to do this. And he means it well. Like, he's just saying, like, you need to reevaluate. And I think it's so important that he can bring that back to me. And I encourage people that if you don't have that in your significant other, find a friend that will be like, I need you to keep me in line, like, be my accountability partner and tell me, like, hey, what's important? Let's reevaluate. And that is so important to do for me every couple of months, to kind of figure out where I am and that season of life, which is just really hard to do, but it's very important. I definitely agree with that.
I love that. Sarah, you taught me that lesson, years ago, but you're the one who told me, like, hey, sometimes figuring out what to say no to lets you really excel in what you want to say yes to. And, and I thought about it and I was like, that's so true. And then you asked me to do, I can't even remember what it was, but you asked me to do something or be on a board. I can't remember. And I said, Sarah, honestly, you're not going to get the best of me because I've got too much going on. And you said, no, I get it. That's great. That's an awesome choice. Like, and there was no guilt. You didn't make me feel bad about it. I left, like, with a smile on my face, like, wow, I feel so good about this decision right now. And normally I would have been beating myself up, like, oh, maybe there's a way I could have helped, or maybe there's something I could have done. But yeah, I feel like I've gotten a lot better about that because of your friendship and your leadership there. Thank you.
Yes. And if you think about it, so if you don't say no, like Sarah already said, you're not giving your best to the things that are priorities to you, because there literally is so many hours in a day. I mean, how many times have we made the comment, and I'm working on getting better about this, but about saying, like, oh, I just need more hours in the day, and I think in our society, and I could get on a soapbox about this, and I'm working really hard to change my wording about it, is that, if you think about when moms group up, maybe dads too, I don't know, I group up more with moms, but if our kind of go-to is talking about how busy we are, like, it's this badge of honor. And I had a friend in Oklahoma that's also, we were in practice together, and she's an LPC, and I remember her one time, like, just being bluntly honest with me. And she said, oh, wow, did you, because I had said yes and took on more. And she said, oh, what is that a little gold medal on your shirt that you get to wear? And I was like, what, excuse me? Like, it was hard to hear. But then I thought, that is so very true. And I lost my train of thought where I was going with this. Help me out, guys.
Well, I don't think at the time, we don't think we're doing it for a badge, right? But maybe that's the only thing we get out of it.
But, the talking, but have y'all noticed that we do tend to group up, and it's like this, and I don't think it's a conscious thing. Like, I don't think we're being competitive, but we sigh and talk about, oh my gosh, what a crazy day. I remember picking up from Bible Zone. This is kind of when I really decided to change my way of wording and thinking about this. I noticed, like, we would all be in and be like, oh my gosh, what a crazy day. And I thought, why do I have to call it that? And why is that in our society? Why has that kind of become a badge of honor? And think it's much more honorable and much more difficult to do it the other way, and to slow down and to prioritize and to say no. So that's something that I work on, I would say, if not daily, weekly, of really watching my words about, using the busyness as something that is a badge of honor. The others is actually harder and more beneficial.
I know. I want to jump in right here with you, Dr. Bates, because I'm gonna play the devil's advocate here. Do you think this is getting deep, way more than we probably
This
intended?
wasn't really a chamber chat. It was a free counseling session for me. So,
But do you think that whenever women collectively gather like that and we're like, oh, it's such a busy day, it's almost like a mask for us because we're exhausted and we have a million things going on and we may not be 100% invested in that conversation or paying attention, and we're thinking about what we have to do next. So do we just subconsciously feel like, oh, it's such a busy day, it gives me kind of a pass to just kind of, I can sit back, and if one of the moms or another female thinks, oh, she was having an off day, oh, but she said she was having a busy day.
Yeah.
Like, do you think we subconsciously do that kind of as like, they'll understand I don't have to really get too deep for some of those moms? Because like I see it kind of both ways. Like I know in certain social situations I'll be like, it is such a crazy day, and then like I remove myself from that because I'm not mentally there because I'm thinking of everything else we have to do, or I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
And so I do think that some women are like, oh, I'm going to do this. And your friend telling you about the badge, like good for her, because that's how I think of it too. Like Brant's always like, oh, cool. You're the busiest person in Graham, Sarah. And I'm like, thanks. Like, you're so neat. But I mean, he means it with love. And I know that he's really trying to, in his way, tell me like, it's time to reevaluate. And I appreciate that. But I also, in that group, whenever we always filter those conversations, like for me personally, like it's sometimes a way out to be like, I'm just not mentally able to contribute. Does that make sense?
it's interesting.
And I guarantee you're not thinking of that at the time. Like it's
No.
not that that's what you're wanting. I really think that there literally is, we're allotted this in sessions. Sometimes I'll talk about this bucket of mental energy, and you're allotted so much per day. And by 5 o'clock, there may only be this much left in your bucket, and you still have all these other things to do. And so it's truly out of a place of like, there isn't that ability to give right then. And so I think you're right, but I really want to emphasize that I think I know you, and I know it's unconscious, and I think it's unconscious for a lot of us, but you're right. I mean, it probably is part of that, speaking of getting deep. So Krisa, sorry about your outline. Like we may not get there.
You know what? Like I said, this was all just a gimmick to get a free counseling session. So you just carry on.
Oh, I didn't tell
Carry on.
I want your That was good. That was good. Yeah. I'm taking your insurance card later, by the way.
Deal. I think this is worth it. It's worth it.
So I had a massive back surgery. They did, my entire back is now rods and metal and steel and bone and all kinds of, cadaver bone and stem cells. Well, anyway, it took me for a loop. I mean, it was a rough recovery, really rough. But I will never forget that season. So going back to seasons, things had to slow down. I mean, like I was in bed 24 hours a day. There was nothing that I could do as far as my normal level of activity. And the coolest, and it was such clarity. I mean, it was crystal clear. And the coolest thing that came out of that for me, and I really think, looking at even all the pain that I went through, I still wouldn't trade it for some of the growth and gifts that have happened. And that clarity was the relationships. Like I could see with so much more clarity and appreciation and enjoyment of the relationships around me. I mean, it was so different because my bucket was still full because I didn't have all these tasks that I was marking off. And my relationship with God, and all of those things, like it was just like you almost, there are times where I don't want to go back to the pain, but there are times that, like, how do I bottle, like my new struggle is like, how do I bottle that up? Like, how do I keep that as I start to integrate normal life back? Because it was so different. It was so different. And there was just this ability to see and connect to people on such a deeper level.
That is really interesting and kind of mind-blowing.
I love it.
And I thought I was doing it okay before,
Right. But I think it would be interesting to get to, I mean, I don't want to go through that, by the way, so I'm trying not to jinx myself right now, but to really see what truly fills your bucket versus drains it. I mean, when you remove everything, then you can see, what actually adds to versus takes away.
Yes.
And then how do you, whenever you're out of that season, how do you get back to that successfully and still balance all of it? Because I think that should be the goal, is what not only fills our bucket, but are unnecessary things taking away from it. They're stealing that energy, and they're stealing that love, and they're stealing that positivity. I mean, I think, Kerri, what a testimony, because you found that beautiful sweet spot, but you couldn't be there forever. So how do we do that? How do we make it work? How do we be our best selves? And I think that's awesome that you are able to experience that and now navigate how to get back to it.
It was beautiful. Like I said, I wouldn't trade it for anything because it was so beautiful. And I've always, working with people that are at the end of their life, and I talked to Brandon about this. I don't know how many times he's probably heard me say this. Like, how do we bottle up that wisdom? Like, how do we bottle up the wisdom that people gain when they're facing end of life things? Because that does make you reevaluate your priorities. And so none of us want to get to that point that it takes something like that, or a life-changing accident, or a life-changing loss. Those are really difficult things. It does cause you to reevaluate your priorities, but how do we bottle that up? How do we gain that wisdom before getting to that place?
It's almost like, to maintain balance, you have to stop taking time for granted.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Which is really hard to do. I mean,
Very hard.
Yes. And, kind of switching gears from some of the deep stuff, but one of the things that is probably at the top of the list, that when you do want to look at balance and how you achieve balance, and we've all talked about it, is prioritizing. And, there are things that are on your list that are non-negotiable. Feeding your child, non-negotiable. Cooking a 10-course meal versus maybe picking up pizza one night, that's negotiable. But there are things that are not negotiable on there. But there really is so much, if we sit down, there is so much more on our list than we realize. And it does take, again, that continual evaluation of, what are my priorities? And I think, Sarah, you had mentioned this, or maybe Krisa, about, what does bring me joy and what does drain me? And going back to the seasons, it may be different in each season. Something that brought you a whole lot of joy and brought you fulfillment, and you brought fulfillment to others at a season in your life, there may come a time to pass the torch. Allow someone, this helps me, allow someone else to have that. Allow someone else to see the benefits where they're fulfilled, other people are fulfilled, and then it helps back off that, one of the key signs is resentment. When you leave that activity, if you're thinking about your priorities, you've got something on your list, even if it used to bring you joy, but you're noticing in this new season, it's draining, you're building up resentment, you're starting to kind of show up late, or it's the last minute thing where used to that'd be the first thing you tackle because you had this excitement and this fire. That means that it's time to shift that off your priorities. And as women, particularly, again, that's what I know because that's what I am. We have to tell ourselves that's okay to shift that off our list of priorities.
And I think we should tell each other too.
Yes.
I think there's a lot of at least perceived mom shame out there. Whether it's real or not, I think we can feel it. We feel like it's real. And, I think I had a friend one time. So my kids, we're not on time anywhere, but also they're not the kids that match, when we go somewhere or have their hair perfectly done, and we're just not that family. And that's okay, because like you said, some priorities are negotiable. That one is negotiable for me. But I had a friend one time and I said, gosh, I'm just so impressed because your girls, they always have their hair braided and they always look so cute and they have on these matching dresses. And she looked at me and she said, I couldn't get my youngest to wear underwear today, so I just let her go without it. And I just left it because I was like, let's say that to each other, let's build each other up and say, hey, none of us are actually perfect. We're still doing the best we can. And we all have different priorities and we're all negotiating in different places. But let's all just give each other some encouragement.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I think we can all do better with encouraging and lifting others up. So many times whenever going back to the collective group, we seem to point out the negatives of this is happening and this is happening. And then whenever you do throw in a positive, sometimes it's perceived as bragging and it's not, but sometimes it's just important to share those wins, especially in a day, if you're having a tough day, the little win is, hey, we got out the door for school with no tears. High five, high five. That's awesome.
That's a big win.
And I think it is, Krisa, what you said. I think it's really important that we do, as women, lift each other up, because we all know that's not the case. It happens, it's happening with our younger girls in school. It's just, it's our job to set the example and to, sometimes a positive text and I know it's a foreign concept to pick up the phone, but sometimes just calling and saying, hey, just thinking of you, hope you're well. That goes a long way for moms and single mothers and women who don't have children. Everyone has a busy season. We just don't know when that is.
Yes.
I love it.
And we can, in isolation, we may be around 100 people a day, but it can sometimes feel really isolating. And it just takes one person reaching out and making that connection. So yeah, I think that's super important, super important.
So these are my takeaways, okay? But you guys interject if I forgot something or if I got something wrong, okay? But I'm going with learn how to say no.
Mm-hmm.
Guilt-free. Learn how to say no.
Yes, very important. You're right. Okay, learn how to say no with no guilt. Learn how to reevaluate your priorities in different seasons and remember that there are different seasons. Lean on other people to help you through those seasons also. And encourage each other for, Krisa, Sarah, Kerri, keys to work-life balance.
I like it.
Yeah, and I think also it's really important to figure out and identify what's filling your bucket and what's draining your bucket.
You're right. Yeah, that was
those are just as important, because we can't add more joy if we don't know what's taking it away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, holes in buckets don't work. Okay, what else? Anything else from you guys? You girls?
I just want to interject really fast and say, Krisa, I know you gave Dr. Bates and I this really awesome introduction at the beginning saying how we do all this. I think it's important you look in the mirror too. You know, Dan is active in the military. I mean, we know that he has deployed and what that looks like in a mom of 3 after you just had a baby who is struggling with some illnesses. I mean, you have also done it all. And it's important that you recognize that this chamber chat was just as much as you as a participant as a moderator. You know, you just finished your MBA and you bring joy to the community. And I think it's really important that you recognize that too. So.
Thank you, Sarah. Well, I really do appreciate that, but I will also say I have learned to lean on others, and I think that was really hard to learn how to do. But I have learned to ask for help, you know, and I've learned to say, like, probably my most common phrase, I think, the last time Dan was deployed was, I just ask for grace a lot, a whole lot. Just ask for grace. I forget things, or I don't show up to things that I said I would be there for, and I don't do it right or whatever. And, you know, gosh, I used to drop Owen off at kindergarten without shoes on. I mean, you know, and just those are the things. This is real life. And I just asked for a lot of grace. And people were so generous because they gave it to me. And even when I asked for too much grace, they still gave it. So.
What a challenging season you were in.
Oh,
yes, yes.
For everyone who knew me, I think, because I relied on a whole community of people. So.
Which is how it should be.
Agreed.
Thank you. Well, I hope this was a fun chamber chat. Let's do it with wine, like on a patio next time.
I don't know if we should video that.
Yeah,
Okay,
I don't think it'll be.
We'll cut down to 30
minutes.
Edit maybe.
There we go.
Okay, well, y'all, thank you both so much. Thanks for sharing with us. Y'all are such great examples, and really, really appreciate both of you.
Thanks for getting this together, Krisa.
Yes.
We appreciate you.
Thank y'all.
You.
And I hate that Samantha couldn't be with us, but maybe next time.
Yes.
Hope she's having fun on her field trip.
I'm sure.
Bye, ladies.
Bye, y'all.